I always have been eager to know more about the political and economical situation of our country. Nevertheless, has this motion brought to me the opportunity to dig even deeper into the matter. So it's between the collision of our diplomatical and economical interests all in one that I'm standing here in front of you all, in all honor and pride to defend our point of view. Reopening the borders with Ceuta and Melila does not serve the Moroccan economy. First of all, let me explain to you all when does something actually help the economy. According to the Investopedia online journal, it is when it increases the value of the goods and services produced within the nation. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable jury, dear opponents, let me take you back to 2 weeks ago, 16th of May, date of the reopening of the borders between Spain and Morocco within our territory. They were closed and reopened finally after 2 years, firsthand because of the COVID-19 situation and then because of the well-known diplomatic crisis between Madrid and Rabat. A matter that we're sure not discussing today, but it is inevitable that it somehow had an impact on our economical situation. Questions are today, what kind of impact did it have on us, and does this reopening actually help our economy or not? There is a quote by the famous American economist Paul Samuelson: "Economics is about choosing between alternatives," and this is exactly what I'm here to do today. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sure that you know some people, or you yourselves, go to the northern cities of Morocco and preferably buy some items there because it's cheaper and you can get the same things for a reduced price. What a bargain, you'll tell me. An idealistic way of buying things, yet not so ethical. The problem I'm smelling here is smuggling. According to Morocco World News, the Director General of the Moroccan Administration of Customs and Indirect Taxations, Nabil Khadr, has estimated the value of the products entering Morocco through Ceuta and Melila borders. Want to know how much? Between 6 and 8 billion dirhams per year, an astronomical amount of money. He also underlined that Morocco is supporting a radical situation to put a permanent end to this problem, since Moroccans living in the northern regions are buying things from the Spanish enclaves and reselling them, profiting from... Yes?
You mentioned smuggling and the way it impacts the economy negatively.
Yes.
What is your solution to the unemployment caused by its disappearance?
We can find other alternatives to make these sellers make this whole problem more ethical. Since smuggling is hurting our economy, the government is not profiting from the taxes. So if we could make other ways of selling these things in a more ethical way, it could help. Thank you. So, what I was saying is these Moroccans are making some parallel economies that are hurting directly our economy. It is rather a crippling thing. Reopening the borders are only encouraging these parallel economies that we could benefit from it in so many ways. Another thing is, after the diplomatic crisis between Madrid and Rabat, our country has put a goal in front of us, which is to decrease the imports from Spain from 188 to 100 billion dirhams per year, which could make for us an 83 billion dirhams benefits for our kingdom. Basically now we could prefer local production, which is the solution I propose, instead of importing. So I don't really see where the reopening of the borders can help our economy rather than holding it back. Thank you.
First of all, closing borders not only eliminates smuggling, which creates unemployment, but it also eliminates the alternative of taxes because it closes the borders. Now, closing the borders isn't beneficial to the Moroccan economy. Let's just take a moment to admire the subtle contradiction within the government's position. Opening borders, which implies improving local exchanges, legalizing them, administrating them, would have as a logical consequence the enrichment and development of the concerned area as well as of the Moroccan economy as a whole. But today, and to my greatest confusion, I have to prove this point and change a lot of false beliefs by a display of solid arguments and by the fundamental power of logic bestowed upon us. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I know it's 10 a.m. I know I am the leader of opposition, and I know that getting political isn't the best way to start on a Saturday morning. On a Tuesday morning, sorry. But a story certainly is. So let's find out what happened to Miss A. This brilliant Moroccan young lady grew up in Fnidq, the city that's the closest to Ceuta. There she received a Moroccan education with some Spanish influences, of course, like practically every citizen of the north of Morocco. She was smart and had an especially strong bond with her parents, which made her start an amazing career in her field of interest in Fnidq. But when an opportunity of career development arose, she had to make the sacrifice and move to Ceuta. There she could support her parents much more financially and could still visit them nearly every weekend due to the proximity between both cities. But as you all know, quarantine happened. Miss A was devastated. And then to make it even more enjoyable, the closed borders killed every bit of joy she managed to preserve. From then on, things went downhill. Every day she had to wake up to the same 4 lifeless walls, 3 gray windows, 1 or 2 meals a day, crippling depression, mental exhaustion. Life was pretty bad for her, to say the least. And 1 year later, when quarantine was finally lifted, and she had a last tiny glimmer of hope, the diplomatic tensions between Morocco and Spain led the final blow. She won't be seeing her parents anytime soon. This is just an example of how closing the borders had a negative impact on thousands of lives. The moral and psychological damage dealt to all parties involved had substantial consequences on the Moroccan economy. How? Well, we tend to neglect the importance of human resources when it comes to any economic model. Because the little and supposedly insignificant lives of the people is what makes the economy. Whole empires fell in the blink of an eye when the population's morale was at its lowest. Ladies and gentlemen, today, this is not just a speech that wins debates. This is also a call directed to the future leaders of this nation. Your goal may be attaining financial results or economic growth, but if you expect a demoralized team or population to work solely because they are paid good money, you are being foolish. You need to show the path, lead the way, show empathy, and then hope. Hope that the journey ends with complete satisfaction for both you and your team. Only then can you pride yourself on being a good leader. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, lovely opponents, sure enough, we all think that reopening the borders with Ceuta and Melila will serve the Moroccan economy. Yet, in a short term, reopening the borders will not serve the Moroccan economy directly, but it will serve Moroccan politics, Moroccan social situation, especially the social situation in Northern Asia. And when we speak about social stability, it implies directly to political stability. And when we have political stability, it makes our economy more competitive and more attractive for international businesses. So directly, it will not serve the Moroccan economy. But it's a strategic decision that will involve Morocco in this reopening of borders. But behind that, we have the port in Tangier that is competing with the port in Ceuta, and it's much bigger and more efficient. And as it gets used more, it gives many advantages for the Moroccan economy. And furthermore, near Melilla, we have the port of in Nador, which is under construction. And these 2 ports will be fully competitive. But the bad impact of such decision will not be felt, at least in Morocco, for the Moroccan economy. And just to make my point of view very clear for the opposition team, by saying that the bad impact of such a decision will not be felt by the Moroccan economy, I don't mean that will give it any advantages.
Yes. You talked about the negative consequences of opening the borders, but do you think that the long-term consequences for closing the borders are positive? If not, what will be the consequences of closing them?
We have, it's not that there is a negative impact, but we have a lot of things that hurt the Moroccan economy just by reopening the borders will not only hurt the Moroccan economy, but it will actually give it a bad, I don't know how to say it, but I will answer you later. And To add up to what has been said, I'd like to define a word that I will be using in my speech a couple of times, which is contraband, which means goods or merchandise that whose importation, exportation, or possession is forbidden, or illegal or prohibited trafficking goods, and that's what we call smuggling. These contraband activities connect the Spanish enclaves of Ceuta and Melila and the Moroccan cities of Fnidq, Nadora, and Mediq, where the contraband product enter Moroccan territories. Prior to border closure in 2020, the total value of smuggling goods from Ceuta and Melila to neighboring Moroccan cities reached 1 billion euros, which is 1053 billion dirhams. And the Moroccan economy doesn't use that money. And I repeat, it doesn't use that money. Moreover, the government said that this contraband activities heavily penalize Morocco's economy, which means that they don't get any advantage from it, because these people who sell that merchandise which is illegally exported don't pay taxes. So it doesn't help in any way possible the Moroccan economy. And besides, smuggling paralyzes our local industry. Smuggling is a drain on the foreign earners of the nation. Smuggling encourages acts of criminality that can lead to armed robbery and other heinous crimes. And that's why the authorities of the North African country insist that the resumption of contraband activities is out of the question in this process of reopening of borders. Thank you.
Social situation is directly related to the economy. Dear Deputy Prime Minister, you are supporting our position. And I think that we already countered the counterbalance argument, so please adapt. Fellow citizens, dear government, hello. I am standing here today with full consciousness of what I'm about to say, and like the people beside me that claim that their opinion on today's motion is right. And I am not going to waste another second without making all of you realize how impactful the economical crisis was due to Morocco's border closure, and how much relief will be provided to the Moroccan economy by reopening them. But before getting into more details, let's stop all this hypothetical thinking and let me make things real for you. Back in 2020, my mother's cousin had to leave for Ceuta with her husband, who suffered from a severe brain illness and that used to be treated there. They went to Ceuta once or twice a month approximately, and everything was going just fine for them. But here comes March, life-threatening pandemic, diplomatic conflict between Madrid and Rabat, borders closed. Their lives stuck there for 2 years. No way of going back, both jobless, one of them sick, and with nowhere to stay. As the leader of opposition greatly illustrated this to us with Miss A, people went through hell, therefore the economy did as well. Now, let's dive into the topic and reopen the borders of your brain by the blessing bestowed upon us. Taking into consideration the fact that the land borders between Morocco and the two Spanish enclaves are seen as some of the busiest with 25 million crossings annually, it is clear that the closure had a devastating economic impact on both sides, our country and the two Spanish cities. The unemployment rate increased dramatically due to the cross-border workers losing their jobs, let alone the Moroccan migrants that were stuck in Ceuta, and thousands of them still remain there to this day, or the unemployment problem that was born in Fnidq specifically, or how that impacted the transportations, or the fact that the local economies were heavily dependent on the crossings of goods and workers. I could effortlessly go on for hours and hours, and our dear government will still shamelessly try to convince us that reopening the borders won't serve our economy at all. The economy that was heavily impacted by their closure. Make it make sense. Yes? Thank you for your question. My team and I will get back to you later. Ladies and gentlemen,
Before letting you move on to another one of their interventions, I would like to state the Ceuta President Juan Vivas' own words. Strength is in unity. Ladies and gentlemen, with the hope that this helped you understand the aspect of the topic that we are defending for its importance to our country and our hearts above all, because we believe in a better future, a future where tomorrow's citizens will finally be able to distinguish between good and bad to their own country. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, hello. Do you ever have this one gut feeling that sometimes the aberrations could turn into the best fortunes? Or do you even have this feeling of satisfaction to know that your motherly land is in good odds with itself, even with the missing parts? To know deep down that even the darkest spells could turn into the greatest fortune? Dear auditory, I'm here within you with an insightful and a very subversive argument that luckily could turn your tables around and hopefully enlighten your critical thinking abilities. Today's motion, which is about our dear country and its sensitive subject of borders, is really opening borders with Ceuta and Melila. A wide decision. Is Morocco as a country viewed as a missing puzzle without them? Or is it a hidden silver lining in a very gloomy cloud? Ladies and gentlemen, there is only one way to come to these kind of conclusions. I myself came with the ultimate cure, the cure to this ailment, a medicine that cures the incurable. Well, you may now, after this long introduction, ask if I am still lying you into wasting your time. After all, why would opening the borders cause economical crisis by the simple fact of justice being made? Well, Morocco as a country lived and is still living a very fruitful development into these last 2 years. I'm stating data now. Morocco's GDP growth rebounded to 7.4% in 2021, after contracting by 6.3% in 2020. This rebound was driven by an exceptional cereal crop after 2 consecutive years of drought. Yes? My sources? I did some researches on the internet and I took some of this data from the Moroccan Economy report that they give once a year. Thank you. Well, as I was saying, after contracting by 6.3% in 2020, this rebound, as I said, after 2 consecutive years of drought, of COVID-19, of solid exports and remittances, supportive macroeconomic policies, and significant progress in vaccinations. Numbers speaks of their own. No one could ignore the significant progress made in the last 2 years by deciding to open the borders, which may seem as a broad-minded way to give a decision or even act, is technically going to help Morocco. I concur. But on the other hand, it would only bring misfortune and other problems as empowerment and embezzling money. Nevertheless, Morocco's weak yet thriving economy survives such a reckless act. Do you really expect it to happen? A lot of new things might occur in these times after taking these kind of decisions. Accessibility would be more given to exporters and rival shareholders that wouldn't stay still, that trying to draw out Morocco, not only from the local market, but even from the international one. The international and local market would obviously abduct Morocco from the most beneficial and tribal acts and matters. Here, let me explain in more easy words. When the foreign rival products would enter the Moroccan borders, there would be a very active competitiveness in the market, because not only Spanish, but even European products could enter easily Morocco and be found in every single supermarket you go into. Results overproduction and non-vacant workplaces for Moroccan youth people and young graduates from college. A very fragmented economy for the next generation. This is what results from this kind of reckless decisions. Moreover, the international market is already abducting Morocco from such tribal acts. Easily erased in sway, I am assuming that you, dear opponents, are trying so hard to give your own country in a silver plate to colonizers. Yet I can more assume that you are biasing destruction of your own country rather than growing it. Well, now I can say that I'm giving you the floor. Thank you.
social situation is related to human resources, and my classmate has already made it clear that it's directly related to the economy. I would suggest to listen more carefully. The time has finally come again for me to step on this amazing stage that is so very dear to my heart, but to my greatest misfortune, is wronged by some individuals who claim to know it all. To be absolutely honest, my opponents present here with us kind of make me want to join Jaden Smith on his saying. Don't worry, I do not expect you all to get the reference, but oh my god, dude, can we like talk about the political and economic state of the world right now? Well, guess what, Jaden Smith? Unlike my opponents, my mates and I are here to do just that. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable members of the jury, and most importantly, fellow Moroccan citizens, greetings. It seems that my opponents had a hard time understanding the topic, and it shows indeed. Now, if I understand well what you are saying, you're basically claiming that reopening the borders with Ceuta and Melila doesn't benefit the Moroccan economy. Absurd, if you ask me. Therefore, please do allow me to take you all on a small trip. We are traveling back to last year. I know, I am so sorry to bring up such difficult times. I agree that it wasn't the most pleasing year, but it was then that Spain admitted and claimed that the Sahara was in fact Morocco's territory. Don't get bored of the trip just yet. It's about to get more exciting, ladies and gentlemen. Series of diplomatic relationships evolved after that act. In other words, Morocco and Spain became good old friends. And trust me, that comes with benefits. As expected, networks of exchanges took place and people were able to immigrate. Between us, I would naturally stop here, since it's not only an obvious argument, but a truthful and convincing one, enough to decide of the fate of your so-called right position. But I am here to do more than that. I'm not just here to pronounce some arguments and try convincing everyone. I am here as a Moroccan citizen, an educated Moroccan citizen who is swearing to say the truth and only the truth. Since I noticed you were a bit confused in your ways of thinking, no offense, allow me to simplify things for you. Look at it this way. You guys are convinced that reopening the borders does not benefit the economy. So let me ask you, what does? Closing them? I have to inform you that closing the borders will mark the end of this newly recovered relationship. It doesn't sound good to me, and it shouldn't to you as well. So what are you insinuating, opponents? What are you trying to get to? We have, and we will keep proving that it does without any doubt benefit the economy with three, I repeat, 3 arguments so far, and the number will keep on growing. Oh, that I can guarantee. If your main purpose on this debate is to fill in the time gap and finish the 20 minutes with arguments that don't hold up well in the context, then what do I have to say apart from how sad that is? I am being extremely honest, people. You have made my heart as fragile as your argumentation. I am very sad to end on this note, but what can I do apart letting them sail their boats that will most certainly not stay afloat? Please do not take this as a quote. Those are just a few words that I wrote to bless my ears and to clear my throat. Thank you.
I want to thank my dear opponents for making it clear to you all how they have been quite in the wrong. This diplomatic crisis that has happened between Madrid and Rabat was only a chance for us to realize how much we were losing while the borders were open. The numbers are clear. According to Morocco World News, we're losing each year more than 8 billion dirhams per year. And this is rather a crippling thing. Another thing I want to add is Morocco's government was the one to close these borders. If it was this hurting to our economy, do you think they would first keep them long closed for this long? The decision to close the borders have already happened before, like in July 2018, where the enclaves, all the time it was the Spanish government that rushed to open these borders. So dear opponents, do you really think that if it was this hurting to our economy, we would have closed them first? Thank you.
Now that I have a chance to speak again, I would like to add yet another argument, and make sure to add that one to the counter, Ms. Whip, a member of opposition. Don't you think that in a world that runs on globalization, the global economic model is practically based on international exchanges? The biggest economic powers are the ones that attain complete unity, to join the deputy leader of opposition on her brilliant saying. The United States of America, Europe and its border elimination that dragged it to the highest heights. We simply cannot mention opening borders without speaking of economic benefits. Now, after such brilliant performances, all I have to say is thank you, good luck, and see you next debate.
Before I get started, I just want to ask my dear opponent, how will the reopening of the borders help our economy while we have very dangerous activities going on that will heavily penalize our economy? Ladies and gentlemen, as I said before, smuggling paralyzes our local industries, and it's a drain on the foreign earnings of the nation. So, how will our economy get any advantages while we have very dangerous and very dangerous activities that are an inconvenience for our economy? Thank you.
If you want to ask dear friends, please say POI. That's how it works. What a debate that was. But believe me, it's easier to stay in denial rather than provide actual solutions. But the government right here is not only denying straight facts, but exacerbating the whole situation. You sound like tourists in your own country. Oh, talking about tourism, did it not cross your mind that by opening the borders, the tourism rate will certainly increase and therefore benefit the Moroccan economy? The one that we need as part of the country, our country, yes, believe it or not, yours too. That's all from me. Great weekend, everyone.
One, two, three. That's all the 3 seconds that took me time to think about such an argument about tourism. What a clever way to come back to us. Thank you. Now, tourism is a very advantageous matter for our economy. We all agree about that. Without forgetting that tourism alone brings 67.3% of the Moroccan's treasury. Yet, bringing this active tourism will only bring bad luck and jinx us in a very bad way. Here, foreign tourists would come and invest in traditional real estate. We would, like that, lose all of the efforts we did all these years into trying to keep our patrimoine to ourselves. We would now have to share it with Europe, with the USA, with Asia, and with other countries. Ladies and gentlemen, from earlier on, you were just given arguments about human resources and how it would affect our economy. Well, I try to remind you that we are members of the government. We are not bound to speak with emotions. Thank you.
Tourism is here for tourism and not for investing in real estate. I ended my last speech on a sad note, and I will be starting this one on a happy note. This is the type of contradiction I'm getting from your interventions, dear government. But please do not get me wrong, I am not happy because you have finally regained your human facility of thinking and analyzing. Far from that, I am happy because even with so little arguments, you keep on going, and I seriously admire that. With the few seconds I have left, I would like to address something that I believe you failed to understand, which is the strong bond between human immigration and the economy. Nevertheless, I will be more than happy to explain things for you. Dear audience and fellow opponents, listen carefully because I am about to tell you all about it. Immigration boosts the working age economy. Immigrants help more in technological progress, and immigrants help more in taxes, and the list goes on and on and on. Now, I really don't see how you can still be so sure and confident about your position when all I am talking about here is the truth. Thank you.